What's up, Totem Pole Nation? This is Lambo and Matt's World of Sports. This episode, we will be getting into our recap and reactions of all the action in Week 9 of the NFL. Plus, we'll dive into the beef with Josh McDaniels and the Raiders that led to his firing. That is a juicy story. Jay Glazer let the tea spill when it came to all of that stuff. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you to Sideline Sports Network for the platform. And if you want to support the boys, we've got the link in the ticker, Totem Pole Sports or TotemPoleNation.com to get some merch, affordable, comfortable, everything you need. Without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, the Josh McDaniels beef has gone deeper than expected and a very shocking, surprising cost. Now, it came down to a team meeting, and it was a lot of frustration. I guess Josh McDaniels did the old Patriots way where you can't play music in practice, and he let the music play out in practice, and then sources close to him said he didn't really coach the mistakes and all that stuff. Now, it could be true, it could not be true. We weren't there. We just going by sources. We weren't there. Jay Glazer probably was there, wasn't there. We're not criticizing him. We thought it was a great story. So I would give him credit to the story. It looks 100% hella accurate, and it's a great story. Now it starts with Antonio Pierce, who is now the interim head coach. Aiden O'Connell, who was the starter. By the way, the Raiders do beat the Giants pretty badly. It started with how they wanted to start their own culture. And then he refers back to when the Patriots beat the Giants in 2007. That pissed off McDaniels. Now I'm pissed off about it too. But I mean, as a fan, but I wouldn't took it that personal. I mean, it was 16 years ago when it happened. If undefeated 18-0 Patriots versus a 9-7 Giants team that stuck in the wild card and won the Super Bowl. That was great. It came to that, and then the division, the divide of the locker room was very different. Also, it came to a fact where when Jimmy G got hurt, players didn't agree to start Brian Hoyer over Aiden O'Connell. I get it. Brian Hoyer's been around Tom Brady, but he's been very, very inconsistent everywhere he's been. The Browns, the 49ers, the Raiders, the Houston Texans, everywhere he's been, Brian Hoyer's been a very, very, very inconsistent quarterback. So a lot of frustration there going on. Of course, the owner of Mark Davis had some talks with the star players over dinner, talking about what changes had to be made. And this part of the meeting led to the firing and, of course, the loss of the Lions as well, because Jimmy G overthrew Devontae Adams twice. He only had one reception for 11 yards on 7 targets. Yes, that's going to get you hella fired. And then Dave Ziegler, I guess, denied the trade of Devontae Adams before he got fired. They got fired on Tuesday night, and the trade deadline was Tuesday at 4 p.m. So it's just a lot of stuff going on. You can't create the Patriot way. Josh McDaniels will probably be back with the Patriots next season. I mean, you're not getting another head coaching job ever again. It looks bad. What are your thoughts on the beef of the Raiders organization and Antonio Pierce? If he keeps winning, he has a chance to keep his job. If I'm Mark Davis, don't go on the outside looking in, because you got rid of Rich Bisaccia, and that was the most dumbest move in American history.
Yeah, so Max Crosby went on the Pat McAfee show today, and he confirmed that meeting did indeed take place. Damn, my screen is frozen again. So he confirmed that meeting did indeed take place, and that also he wasn't giving up whether or not that was the case, as to that was the last straw for the firing. It wouldn't surprise me. Adam Schefter also on the Pat McAfee show today said that he didn't think that was, the straw that broke the camel's back, and that it was already kind of decided before that meeting that they were going to be moving on from the head coach and GM. But it's a super entertaining story from Jay Glazer. He's historically very accurate with his reports. It's very much on top of it. So, there's nothing that he's done or said that would make me believe that this isn't true. And I just think it's hilarious that, the Patriot way didn't work again.
Well, he's kicked out. So, surprisingly, the Patriot way did not work in New England or with the Raiders. And also, Josh McDaniels was also the former head coach of the Denver Broncos back in 2009, 2010. He got fired basically for the filming and cheating scandal. And within the tenure of 4 years as the head coach, he's been fired in the second season twice. So they were 3-5. And of course, he was fired at 3-5 again. So this is not very surprising to all coaches out there. Now, I don't know what to do as far as situation as far as the McDaniels firing. There's not really much of a future left for him going forward. So, like I said, with Matt Crosby coming on the Pat McAfee show, there are just some things going on with that organization. And effectively, the Raiders did need some type of change that is going on. So they changed it. Antonio Pierce with the win. They did beat the Giants pretty badly, but also into the fact of the changes, Daniel Jones also has torn his ACL. So the Giants will be out with the quarterback going forward. I think Tyrod Taylor is still hurt. So if he's still hurt, the Giants do go with Tommy DeVito. It's not really much to say about this game. This game was a blowout, but I guess the tables have turned very, very fast within 1 week. Players are starting to play for Antonio Pierce because he is a former player that can, relate to the players. And also he's coached at Arizona State under Herm Edwards, and also he coached in the high school in Long Beach Poly. So he does have some type of head coaching experience with Antonio Pierce at the same time. But there's not really much to say about the game because they blew out the Giants, and Daniel Jones tore his ACL. He's out for the season. So I don't know. Tyrod Taylor, like I said, he's still hurt. They got to go to Tommy DeVito. So the Giants are messed up in a lot of ways. But the Raiders, they fought and they played for them. So that's really what it came down to. Next game I got to get into is, or the first game I get into is Thursday night's game of the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will Levis did not play a bad game at all. I mean, he played very consistent. I'm surprised. We both picked the Steelers because of the defense, but he didn't play bad in the game. He got one interception. I get it, but he didn't play bad. His one interception was.
And I told you. I said it. I told you. I said I'm putting a future on, not a future. I'm putting a bet on Will Levis throwing an interception in this game.
It was the final play of the game.
I know. I was sweating, dude. The Steelers dropped like 3 or 4. I'll let you get back to it. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but the Steelers dropped 3 or 4 interceptions in that game. And I was just sitting here sweating. Like, are you kidding me, bro? Like, and last play, he throws a pick, makes me some money. It was a lock the whole time. I'm glad it finally happened at the end of the game. But yeah, sorry, you get back to it. I was very excited when that happened on Thursday, and this is the first chance we've got to talk about it. So
Kenny Pickett threw his interception. Not Kenny. Will Levis threw his interception. Obviously, Derrick Henry was able to run the ball efficiently. The Titans also was able to run it and be effective. They just couldn't score touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Obviously, to Deontay Johnson now with my fantasy, it fucked it up because I thought George Pickens scored a touchdown, but that is some lazy feet by George Pickens. He wasn't even close to the sideline, and he couldn't drag that 1 foot in there. So it's just lazy footwork from that standpoint. Now the Steelers are 5-3. Obviously their offense is still not consistent. Even though Matt Canada came from the booth to down there, I guess it made some form of a change in communication. But I still think they should fire Matt Canada. But the defense is keeping them in games. The Titans are 0-4 on the road, so it's not good. Every time on the road they lose. But I like Will Levis going forward. I think they found an next QB for, I give you 3 years. I'm not gonna be Pat McAfee said they only finding the quarterback for the next 10 years. I don't know about 10 years. I give you 3 maybe. I give you 3 to be realistic, but I get where Pat McAfee is coming from. What are your thoughts on this game? And you know the AFC North is very stacked. The Ravens won, the Bengals won, the Browns won, and the Steelers won. Everybody won. So what's that AFC North looking like?
It's looking a lot better than I thought it was going to as a whole. I mean, I thought the Steelers, I've been very vocal about what I thought about the Steelers not being a very good team this year. And they're a bend don't break when it comes to defense, but the offense doesn't really score a lot of points. So negative point differential, but then you look at what TJ and Cam Hayward and everybody can do on that defense. It's weird because when you look at it statistically, they're bad, but they have a winning record and they find ways to win tough games, which is what you expect from a Mike Tomlin coach team. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised at it, but I kind of was just based off what my initial thoughts were on the Steelers and then the AFC North as a whole. I think we both thought the Ravens would be good. Excuse me. And then after the Bengals woke up, they're back to being one of the best teams in the league as well. This game in particular, I was impressed with Will Levis. 262. The quarterback rating wasn't that great, and neither was the passer rating. But you got to give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to he's playing a very good defense, even if the stats say that's not entirely true. And he's playing in his second career NFL game. His second, you can't put all the weight on his shoulders. Derrick Henry, I thought, would get a little bit more touches than 17, but you also have to remember that he's getting old. He's had injuries. They're not going to, have him be the leading rusher when it comes to touches in the league like he has been in years past. And, D-Hop is back to, just I don't want to say he's back to it because it's only been 2 games, but the first game, obviously he explodes for a crazy 3 touchdown on 4 catches game. And then this game he had 4 for 60, which is what, it's kind of what we've been getting used to this year. It's just kind of pedestrian numbers when it's DeAndre Hopkins, and that's not really what you're expecting. My outlook for both of these teams, the Titans, I don't think should be in the biggest hurry to be winning a lot of games right now, just because of how stacked the AFC is as a whole. You're not going to make the playoffs. So at this point, you're kind of just hurting what you're going to be able to add to this team. And then from the Steelers' perspective, this is just a Steelers season as we've come to expect it. They don't look the best sometimes on paper. The offense obviously has been pretty lackluster since Ben's last 2 years, with some flashes from, Najee, his rookie year. And he played all right this week too. But, Warren is still playing well enough to where they're splitting those touches. Deontay Johnson is back. The last time he caught a touchdown pass, it was from Ben Roethlisberger. So it was nice to see him in the end zone. But then that also led to Pickens having -2 passing or receiving yards on the day. So we'll have to see. This offense is always up in the air, but they find a way to be a 500 team that's, I guess, one above 500 every year. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything new from the Steelers. I don't think that they make the playoffs, and they're going to be a middle of the first round when it comes to draft pick. And then the Titans, I think, are kind of just, you want Will Levis to play well. You have Derrick Henry, you have D-Hop, but when you look at your defense and then you look at your quarterback situation, I think it kind of just hurts if they start to stack any wins. So not that I like the direction they're going, because obviously that term comes with success, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for them to be dropping some games and helping the draft stock.
All right, next game, the Dolphins lose to the Chiefs. They're 0-3 against teams above 500. The Chiefs pull off the win. Now, I understand the Chiefs were up 21-0. And then the Dolphins came back, and I thought they was going to put a comeback in the fourth quarter until the mishandled snap. Um, Pat Mahomes did what Pat Mahomes does. Now the receiving core was very mid, so I give credit to the Dolphins defense in the second half. Um, the run game for the Dolphins was okay. Tua didn't have a pick, but it just came down to Miami fell behind. The Chiefs are top, obviously, second best team in the AFC. I think the Ravens are the most complete team. Um, Dolphins, you were right. I mean, I picked them to win, obviously, but I thought they was going to pull this upset, the Tyreek Hill revenge. But Dolphins fell behind too late, and then Chiefs barely win. I'm not sure if they covered the spread or not because, in the past they couldn't cover the spread. Not sure what the spread was. I didn't bet on them because I just don't trust them when it comes to the spread, obviously. But Chiefs win. They find ways to win. Their defense is excellent, obviously, but it just came down to the receivers, the Chiefs receivers, they all need to step up. And Travis Kelce didn't have a great game either. So everybody need to step up. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the contrast between the level of play in the first half and the second half for the Chiefs was huge. Like you said, the receiving room was awful. Pat did what he could. He threw the ball at 66%. 185 is just not at all what you would expect from this offense and Pat himself, but didn't turn the ball over. 2 touchdowns. It's enough to win the game. This is one of the best defenses in the league. I didn't think that this game was going to be a defensive battle, though. Obviously, the Dolphins' defense is way different with Ramsey and Xavier Howard back. So the critiques of the past with them were that they couldn't stop anything on defense, and now they can. But they happen to face one of the best defenses in the league, and Tyreek got held to 62 yards, Jalen Waddle 42, and then on the ground, like Mostert, when you're down 21-0 in the first half, you're not going to be able to give your running back the amount of touches that would be necessary for him to, pop off and contribute the way that you're used to him contributing. So, I mean, they just dug themselves in a hole. Tua didn't play bad, but he didn't play great. I wouldn't say either one of these QBs played great by any means. But I don't think either one of them played bad either. So it's, it was an interesting game to watch. I thought it was going to be a little bit more entertaining in the fourth with the way that the third was going, but it wasn't boring. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't the most exciting, especially from, 2 of the top 10 teams in the AFC.
I agree. Next game, the Patriots versus the Commanders. Now, Sam Howard made some great impression stuff. He threw a pick, a boneheaded pick before halftime. I thought the Patriots defense did what it could, despite giving up a big play in the third quarter. But the offense had 3 chances and couldn't score. Now, the roughing the passer call was bogus as shit. He sacked the quarterback and they called roughing the passer. So that wasn't roughing the passer, and I'm going to admit that because it was a bullshit call. Mac Jones played what he could. He was great. 24-44 doesn't look great, but I mean he didn't throw an interception until like the end of the game, and it was on Juju's hands, and then boom, interception, game over. It was in field goal range. All we needed was 10 yards to go to field goal range, and Juju drops it. Now with Ron J.C. was able to run the ball very effectively. He had that 64-yard touchdown run. Patriots forced 2 turnovers, a fumble that led to a touchdown and an interception that led to them leading up to halftime 14-10. The offense just can't do what it needs to do in the final drives of the game, so the Commanders win, obviously. But Patriots at 2-7 is probably the worst probably since 2000 in Bill Belichick's first year. They play the Colts next week in Germany, so I'll watch that, but I won't have any hopes, and I think I regretted wearing the Mac Jones jersey until the end of that damn interception. What are your thoughts on this game? I'm surprised I'm not as mad. But then I guess because I took a nap, was late to my own damn show. So I'm surprised, but I'm not as mad as I once was. What are your thoughts on this game? And top 5 draft pick for the Patriots?
Yeah, it's looking like it, bro. It is looking like it. It's a tight game. They were, like you said, in the lead at halftime. Ramondre Stevenson having 9 carries and, basically 10 yards a carry and only having 9 is weird to me. I don't understand why this offense this year has been so focused on having Mac throw the ball like 40 times.
Just can't run the ball.
But they have running backs and they're not giving them the touches. They haven't been giving them the touch. Like, yeah, Ramondre has had a little bit of a worse season than last year when it comes to like yards per carry. But you also have to acknowledge that they're not giving him the opportunities that they were giving him last year. And I understand that, this is a different offense, different, leadership, everything like that. But you lost your number one receiver. Juju still sucks. So I wouldn't, I don't see a reason why we're falling off the running game when you should be giving it more attention. The Mac Jones throwing the ball 45 times in this game and then 40 plus in multiple games this year just isn't the way to win with this how this team is constructed, I don't think. And then obviously, like the injuries and the losses on defense hurt huge, but I don't think it's the best way to use Mac. And then on the other side with the Commanders, Sam Howell has all the potential in the world. He is definitely looking like a quarterback of the future for this franchise. Brian Robinson Jr. is a good running back. That's what I'll give him. He's a good running back. And he played well. Terry, still Terry. Jahan Dotson, second year, he's looking better and better. And, they've got contributors all the way down the line. Logan Thomas is still one of the very good tight ends in the league. De'Ami Brown out of UNC is getting more involved. So as much as I don't want to say this, I kind of like what I've been seeing out of the Commanders offense, but they're just a few pieces away, I think, from being competitive in the NFC East. Pieces that they do not have right now. I will say they got swept already by the Eagles. I think we're going to sweep them. But I will say I think that they will take care of the Giants. The Giants are just...
I agree. Next game, the Vikings. We both picked the Falcons. But Josh Dobbs, learning that system fast as hell. They got the game-winning touchdown. Now, Taylor Heineke didn't play his bad game at the start. He just had that one interception. Jonathan Smith had a big touchdown. 60-yard touchdown. He couldn't do shit with the Patriots. The Vikings without Justin Jefferson. Josh Dobbs was the answer. He was able to run. Now, the run game was very inconsistent besides him running. Jaron Hall was out. I guess he's in concussion protocol. But Josh Dobbs learning the system fast, not knowing his teammates' names. They pull off the victory. The Vikings were 1-4 at one point. Now they're 5-4. Could it be the final playoff team in the NFC if this keeps going well?
Yeah, but look, Josh Dobbs, him running the ball well is nothing new. He was one of the top guys in the league when it came to yards per carry before he got here. And, he wasn't playing poorly this year. And now he can play that same style that already had him in top 5 in yards per carry with a minimum of like 30 or 40 carries, of course. And then, not playing bad football from the pocket either. Now he can do that with a much more talented team, a much better offense and a defense that isn't always. Now, I'm not going to say that the Vikings defense has been phenomenal. They obviously just let the Falcons score 28 points. But they're in positions to win games. Whereas when he's in, Arizona, minus the Dallas game where they just forgot to show up, he really hasn't been the reason that they're losing. I think he can bring that over to Minnesota and make a good impact. But I don't know. I mean, it would have to be the 7th spot. So, like, realistically, the wild card, there's going to be 3 wild card spots open, and I think it's Dallas, Seattle, and one more team that could sneak in. But I think Dallas and Seattle are going to be the 5 and 6. So are the Vikings going to be the 7th team that sneaks in there? I don't know. I mean, the NFC obviously isn't as deep as the AFC, but they got to figure it out with a quarterback who, all credit to him, he's a rocket scientist. So, like, he's a very, very smart individual and obviously could make that adjustment quick. Similar to what we saw Baker do last year with the Rams and everything like that. Almost like the exact same situation as Baker with the Rams last year. Signing like 3 days before, not knowing any of the plays, going in and winning the game at the end of the game. Very similar situations. I think that they'll have some luck this year, but I'm not super confident that they sneak into the 7 at all.
All right, Rams versus Packers. Obviously, Matt Stafford didn't play. It was Brett Rypien. Lord, I should have probably picked the Packers, but I didn't. Packers did what they're supposed to do after dropping like 5 straight after starting off 2-0. They win at home. Not really much to say when you don't have Matt Stafford, and the Packers that were able to run the ball over the Rams defense. The Rams are probably 1 loss away from losing in the playoffs. Called was a playoff contender, but they're 3 and 6. I don't know if they can turn this around if Matt Stafford does not play next week. Green Bay still sucks, and Jordan Love might not have a job next year. What is your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this was like one of the first games that he was above 60% completion percentage, which was cool to see, I guess. But your team had all the opportunities in the world on offense, and you only scored 20 points, So that's not speaking anything on the Rams defense. Like, obviously, they still have studs at certain positions, but let's not act like this is the Rams defense that we've seen the past, few years. This is a new group. It's a young group. And I think that the Packers really came up short offensively, and they were lucky that they played Brett Rypien. I mean, they gave Aaron Jones 20 carries. So I've been saying it since he came back from injury. Why are they not giving him the ball more? Doesn't really make much sense to me. Finally, he's back in. That's great. But, Jordan is he's looking average. And when your leading receiver is your rookie tight end and he's only got 50 yards, you're going to have to do a little bit better with getting the ball to your playmakers, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. And Jaden Reed, he's a rookie as well. He's been playing pretty well. But, I don't know how much to blame on Jordan because, like, the receiving core isn't the best, but it could just be that we don't know a lot of these guys' names and they're really good. I don't know how much to put on Jordan, how much to put on the team around him, but they came out with a win, so I'm not going to shit on them too hard. It's just not a game that, I saw it and I was like, oh, wow, the Packers are back. I didn't think that at all when I saw this.
All right, next game, the Bears versus the Saints. Saints pull off the win. Obviously, Tyson Badgett had 3 interceptions. You can't win like that. No Justin Fields. He might play Thursday against the Panthers. I'm not watching that game at all. That would be probably the worst game that ever televised on Amazon Prime. And it's disrespectful to Amazon billion-dollar company just for putting that sorry-ass game on there in less than 72 hours. Derek Carr did what he was supposed to do. The run game wasn't great. I mean, the passing game wasn't great either. It just came down to the Saints defense forcing 5 turnovers, including 2 fumbles lost and 3 interceptions. Taysom Hill got a reception touchdown as well. I think he did, or no. Yes, he did. What are your thoughts on the Saints? I said the Vikings could be a final wild card, but you think the Saints could be? I feel like the Saints are a little bit more consistent defensively than the Vikings.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to I mean, like the Saints might not even be a wild card team. Someone's got to win the NFC South, and they're winning it right now. So they could be locked in at the 4. And then, Atlanta, if they could figure it out, like they have the potential to get there. The Bucks might be a little bit too late with, them going on such a slide. But yeah, I mean, I think the Saints, like it has been for the past few years, are having the benefit of playing in the NFC South. It's like the Brady team of last year that was 8-9, but got to the playoffs and then got their asses whooped by Dallas. So it's just they're in the NFC South. They'll make the playoffs based on that. I don't see them getting out of the wild card round. But in this game, I would like to give their defense credit on the turnovers. The offense needs to pick it up. It's been stagnant all year. Taysom Hill being your leading rusher is not the most encouraging thing when you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield. But I will say, little brag on my part, I started Taysom Hill because a few of my guys were on bye in fantasy. Picked him up, threw him in there. 20 points in fantasy from Taysom Hill this week. So I'll take that for sure. When it comes to this Saints offense as a whole, Chris Olave is going to get open, but he only had 46 yards. Juwan Johnson's finally back in the mix when it comes to the tight end room. Michael Thomas only had 1 target all day. Rashid Shaheed caught his, 3-ball average. It's just the difference is sometimes it's 3 balls for 120 and sometimes it's 3 for 20. So this was a week when it was 20. Luckily, they came out with a win, but I thought it was way too close considering how well their defense played.
All right, Seahawks versus the Ravens. Obviously, it was domination from start to finish. Now, I lost the prize pool because Lamar Jackson didn't pass for over 223 yards, but I guess he got hurt with an ankle injury. And Tyler Huntley played in the fourth quarter. They ran the ball pretty well for a combined almost 300 yards running the football. The Seahawks only rushed for a combined of 28 yards, a Geno Smith turnover, and a lost fumble, which 2 turnovers led to the Ravens defense just dominating. They dominated from start to finish. Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the AFC, the best complete team. Offense, special teams, and defense, I'm taking them. If they play the Chiefs, I'm going to take the Ravens to beat the Chiefs. What are your thoughts on this game? Seattle's not out of it. I think they lead the division right now because – no, they don't, because I think the 49ers beat them this year, or they hadn't played yet.
No, they're technically first in the division right now.
Okay, so they're technically first right now. What are your thoughts on Seattle? Would it be the wild card like last year? Because I think the 49ers are going to make adjustments after their bye week and win the division. Do you trust the Ravens going into the playoffs? Now, we understand that Lamar Jackson's playing at 2019 MVP caliber, but the Ravens hadn't really won a playoff game since 2015. So do you trust the Ravens in the future?
The Ravens beat the Titans in the playoffs, didn't they? Like,
that was like 2 years ago. I mean, before that, they won 2 playoff games since 2015. 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it hasn't been really Lamar's fault on all of those. And, like, obviously, one of the games against the Titans wasn't the best. So, like, I'm not defending him on all of those games. But it hasn't always been his fault. He's been hurt as well. When it comes to the Seahawks, I'm looking at the rest of their schedule right now. They've got 3 losses. I think that they could handle the Commanders, but that'll be a tough game. Division game against the Rams, that'll most likely be close. I mean, obviously, they got their doors blown off week 1 versus the Rams. And then they've got a really tough stretch after that. Listen to this. Niners, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles. That's a 4-game stretch where you're playing 3 of the top 5 teams in the NFC. I don't think it's too much of a debate to say that these are the top 3 teams in the NFC. And you got to play all 3 of them in a 4-week span and play one of them twice. So that's the only thing that has me nervous about the Seahawks, because I could definitely see them going 0-4 through that stretch. And then it's up to them to, not drop these trap games like to the Cardinals and to the Titans, who I think that they're better than. But I could very easily see them dropping another one of those as well. So they got some bad luck with the back half of their schedule, probably being one of the hardest in the NFL if I had to rank them, with those 4 games back to back to back to back. They could very easily be, like I mentioned, I think that they're probably going to be the 6th seed, but I could definitely see them dropping out if they don't play the way they're expecting themselves to play based on last year's performance and everything. I could see them dropping out of this playoff race pretty easily if, they don't play up to the competition.
All right, next game, Bucks versus the Texans. You picked the Bucks. I picked the Texans. Ladies and gentlemen, C.J. Stroud, 5 touchdown passes. He's looking good right now. He's looking good. Now, Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz put up some big numbers. And Tank Dell, 3 receivers. 153 yards from Noah Brown. 130 from Dalton Schultz. 114 from Tank Dell. Oh, my God. All of them combined for 370-plus receiving yards. That Bucs defense couldn't stop that at all. Now, neither of these teams could really run the ball, obviously. But Baker Mayfield had no turnovers, just had a lost fumble from each team, obviously. But it came down to the wire. And C.J. Stroud, this is the most touchdown passes that he's had in his rookie career. Passer rating was at 147. That's insane. Are we not talking about the Texans enough? They're 3-1 at home. They're obviously 1-4 on the road. Obviously, we understand Jacksonville is going to be the team in the AFC South, but with all these teams loaded, I feel like maybe Houston could be that final playoff spot if they keep playing like this.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to sound too pessimistic here. Dalton Schultz, great tight end, obviously former Cowboy. I would say with the Noah Brown thing, this is a lot of bias on my part, but I watched him drop at least 10 balls last year, and like 6 of them turn into interceptions. So I don't want everyone to get too high up on Noah Brown too quickly. He's definitely talented. He was a contributor on our offense in years past. He's also the reason for about 6 of Dak's interceptions from last year. Bouncing off his chest, bouncing out of his hands, tipping it to the defense, all that shit, right? So this game was great. CJ has broken the narrative of Ohio State quarterbacks can't make it in the NFL. He's a dog, all right? Clear cut, should have been the number 1 pick. Whatever. The max passer rating you can have is 158.3. And like you mentioned, he was at 147.8. He was nearly perfect in this game. And that's not taking anything away from Baker either, because Baker was phenomenal in this game as well. He played very, very well. 119 passer rating from him. So it's not like he came up short, I think, at all. He's been great all year. Good to great all year. I don't want to say everything's been great, but obviously it wasn't on him. The reason that they lost this, the Texans didn't even have a true kicker. They had a guy that was a kicker in high school who played soccer in high school, was their kicker today. And it came down to a kick to win it, which is hilarious. But, it's the Bucs are just falling apart. Their defense, I say this every week for at least one team, they couldn't stop water with a dam. All right. You could build a dam and this defense is letting water go through it. That's what this defense for the Bucs has looked like on this, downhill slide that we've seen. So I don't know. I want more for Baker. I want better for Baker because it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's just not.
I do agree. Next game, Colts versus the Carolina Panthers, the 1-7. One of the worst records along with the Arizona Cardinals. Gardner Minshew did what he's supposed to do. They didn't run the ball very well. It was a defensive game, I guess. With Bryce Young's 3 interceptions. I mean, my God. Um, Learning curve for Bryce Young, 3 interceptions. The Colts defense won this game. Now the Colts defense, I think you said passing wise wasn't that great, or running wise, one of the two wasn't really that great. But they forced 3 turnovers. Obviously, it'll be a prime time game with by New England Patriots on prime time on Sunday NFL Network in Germany. I like Gardner Minshew. There's not really much to say about this game, but what are your thoughts?
Well, Kenny Moore, who last year didn't play super well, is already had 2 pick-sixes, so that's huge. And we've said it before. I love Adam Thielen, but he can't be your most talented receiver. And we've also said before that Miles Sanders has been a little bit disappointing this year for what they paid him. And it's a first year for this quarterback. Obviously, we just got off of the CJ Stroud hype train. Over here, when it comes to Carolina, you can't have the same expectation. I think the roster over in Houston, with what they brought in with offseason acquisitions and free agency, and then I understand like losing your first round pick for next year sucks, but they also got Will Anderson. They have other dogs on that D line as well. I just think the Texans did a much better job at building a team around their rookie quarterback versus what Carolina went with. And it's tricky to like fully criticize the hiring of Frank Reich, but with what we saw in him in Indianapolis, it's like, do you want him to come over and be your guy for the next, in your eyes, what you want, like 10 years with this new quarterback? Like, I understand he was a quarterback whisperer with Carson Wentz, and that's why he got the job in Indy. But I mean,
he went through like 8 quarterbacks in Indianapolis after Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, I mean, and that's not all on him, but at the same time, like, does that give you a lot of confidence with him having to, take a guy who already has the odds stacked against him? Like, if Bryce Young is successful, he will be an outlier from guys his size. Like, most guys his size are not successful NFL quarterbacks. That's just the fact of the matter. I'm not hating. So starting this, you already have a quarterback whose the odds are stacked against him. And now you're bringing in a coach who just got fired from not having great quarterback play for the past 5 years. So I don't know what to think about it. This was just a pitiful game from their offense.
All right, Cowboys versus the Eagles. Now, this is an NFC division rival, obviously. Both quarterbacks played well. This game was not on Dak Prescott. This game was on a certain amount of turnovers and penalties that really cost the Cowboys to win this game. I did pick the Cowboys, but you're lucky to all you nauseating fans. I'm not saying how about the Cowboys, because I damn near picked them to try to win. And the reason why is because the Eagles defense, I had some concerns. And CeeDee Lamb went for 191 yards receiving. I was very concerned about that defense. I said, I want to pick the Eagles, but my gut is the Cowboys. And I know I picked the Cowboys in the past, and they disappoint me, and they can't win. But the defense, I mean, I understand you held them 23 points, but you let one guy go off. Imagine if CeeDee Lamb didn't have that fumble. It would have been a very different game. Imagine if the Dallas Cowboys had hurt themselves with that stupid penalty with the false start with the extra 5 yards going back. Imagine it could have been exciting, because the Eagles gave them 2 or 3 penalties in the final drive. They started the ball from the 9, about the 5, 10-yard line, and you gave them 2 penalties of 15 yards. Was the only reason why the Cowboys were even close enough to even score. So the Eagles gave it away. They couldn't really run the ball that efficiently. The tuck pushed and helped in certain ways. Dak Prescott, this game is not on Dak Prescott. So I want you people that think you know football, you really don't know football, this game ain't on Dak Prescott. Who is this game on, and what are your thoughts on this game?
The game is on the inches. We were a combined 4 yards from winning this game. That is the Jake Ferguson touchdown that did not happen. That is the Dak toes being out of bounds when diving for the 2-point
Oh
conversion.
my God. Oh my. When I saw it, I was like, Dak, you don't know where your feet are?
Yeah, it's uncharacteristic. You saw, I mean, that's not what Dak has made that run 100 times, the run out, scramble out to the right and you dive in. I've seen Dak make that play more times than too many times for this to be an issue in this game. And then obviously CD catching the ball on the 3 and not being able to get in, which was obviously by design for the Eagles. They just made a wall at the goal line. But still, I mean, that's half a yard when it comes to Jake Ferguson's touchdown. It's half a foot when it comes to Dax stepping out of bounds. And then it's 3 yards on the CD catch on the last play of the game. So it's a game of inches, and that was no more apparent than in this game. Both sides of the ball, the referees were awful. This was just a sloppy game. And I'm not bringing this up saying Dallas got screwed by the refs. I think the refereeing of both teams in this game was just ridiculous. And if I really had to attribute the loss to one person, which I don't think it is a one-person thing when it comes to, these are two of the best teams in the NFC, two of the best teams in the NFL when it comes to like a top 10 list or whatever. But definitely two of the top 3 teams in the NFC, obviously Dallas being the 3. But we knew it was going to be close, and it gives me confidence that the game in Arlington will be a win for Dallas, because historically, that when both teams are good in the division, it's a split series. So I think that's going to be the case this year. When it comes to this game in particular, I really didn't have an issue when it came to them rushing to the line. The defense is most likely expecting a spike. You don't spike it, but you make, in my opinion, what was the wrong decision to throw it to the left side with double coverage. Got bailed out by a few flags, but then that came back and bit us, and they backed us up like 30 yards with flags. So just as a whole, it was sloppy, wasn't very well officiated, I don't think. Statistically, we're not the best at stopping the run, but whenever we play top caliber running backs, CMC, Austin Eckler, now DeAndre Swift, we don't let them go off. I mentioned it, CMC had like 2 point something yards a carry. Austin Eckler had 1.7. And then in this game, I want to say DeAndre had 2.4. So we've played we played just as well as we've been playing against these top teams, and we had opportunities to win. This isn't really a game that I'm like depressed about. I don't think this game hurts Dallas in the long run. Like, this was not a game that I came out of feeling discouraged. Obviously, very pissed off to not win. Don't get me wrong. Very mad that didn't happen. But it wasn't a game that afterwards I was like, blow it up. Like, we have to do something different. Like, we didn't get our asses beat. We were very competitive, and we had multiple chances to win. And, in this game, they won. I think in the next game, we'll win. It's how it's been going when both teams are competitive. Now, obviously, Dak is now 8-4 against Philly. So he's still got twice as many wins against them as losses. I think he adds to that in December. But, and they did the sweetest celebration ever with the D Wade to LeBron thing that they did with. That was sweet, which just pissed me off even more. I was like, damn, got a cool ass celebration too. Like, this is the worst. But I have to acknowledge that was a great celebration. There's just not too much to say about this game. Dak, he played fantastic. Terrence Steele got exposed. It wasn't even sure if he was going to play at the right tackle, but damn, he was getting harassed over there. Dak was under pressure a lot in the fourth quarter. Obviously, that last drive, especially. Yeah, I don't really have anybody to like blame, but if I were, it would be Terrence Steele because he gave up like 4 sacks.
All right, final game, Sunday Night Football, Bills versus the Bengals. I may have to agree with Colin Coward on this one, out of respect. I think Josh Allen's time is coming to an end. Just because, one, I mean, look, Diggs can't be the only receiver. I understand you got Dalton Kincaid, but his body of Josh Allen's wearing down. He's playing through like a messed up shoulder, or I don't know if it's on his throwing arm or his opposite arm. He's taking some hits he shouldn't really be taking. I don't believe that Sean McDermott's time is the end. He cleaned up the whole Buffalo Bills, but I don't think Sean McDermott's time is coming to the end. They signed Josh Allen to a 6-year deal like 2 years ago. So, obviously the Bengals are the better team. They're back. T. Higgins went off and not Jamar Chase, despite the injuries that they have. The Bengals, I do trust them going forward. For Buffalo, we hyped them up a little bit too much. I mean, they were great for, 3 years. The Patriots were down, and they're going to take over the division for the next 10 years. Well, that's not the case right now. Miami leads the division still. But Buffalo, but just with the losses, they lost 2 of the last 3 to the Patriots and now to the Bengals. They beat the Bucs. Their offense is falling off a little bit. They can't run the ball very effectively. They don't have a main running back. I mean, your main running back was the quarterback. And if he keeps on taking these hits long term, he won't last long in the NFL. What are your thoughts on this game? And Josh Allen, he's great talent, but it comes down to the turnovers and crucial situations. And in Buffalo, they just never had a really once they were down, the game was over. I'll just put it like that.
It's tough because I love Josh, but I have also been very vocal on here about people giving him a little bit too much credit because of, his great plays are great, but he also leads the league in turnovers since he's been a starter. So, he's got to be able to, I think the expectations of him need to be simmered down a little bit. I've been saying that, but I also will acknowledge that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league still. We just can't, just because he played one great game against Pat Mahomes in the playoffs doesn't mean that he gets a pass every year as he's just turning the ball over, but he's still elite. I think he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but to say that he's on the same level as Pat or Joe at this current point, I think is just a little bit off, especially with the Pat part, but Joe as well. He had a really great playoff run, and he's had other good playoff performances. But just because you lost a close game to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs doesn't mean that we have to keep patting your back every time you turn the ball over and all this other shit. Now, I will say this game was not entirely on him. Like you mentioned, they just don't trust the running back room, which I don't fully understand. James Cook was going off early in the season, and then they just stopped giving him the ball. Doesn't make much sense to me, but that's what they've chosen to do. Dalton Kincaid looked great. Obviously, that late fumble was unfortunate, but he really 2 weeks in a row now have had great games personally. And then, Khalil Shakir, he's kind of come out of nowhere. He's an impact player. Stephon Diggs is going to get his numbers, but they just couldn't find the end zone enough against a Bengals team that is all the way 100% back. They are the Bengals of old, the Bengals that we are used to seeing with Joe Burrow at the helm. They didn't do anything on the ground at all. Didn't matter because Joe threw for 352 touchdowns and a 109 passer rating. T. Higgins was the star of the show when it came to receiving. Tyler Boyd had a few timely receptions. Jamar Chase was mainly a decoy in this game, 4 for 41. but that's fine. When you have one of the best young receivers in the league, some games, yeah, he's going to be more of a decoy. They're going to have two guys on him at all time. And when you have T. Higgins as your number two, who I agree with Collinsworth, he was saying how hard it's going to be for them to be able to keep him. I agree. I think he's going to be worth way too much for them to be able to keep him on the roster. But when you have that as your number two, I'm fine with having Jamar as a decoy for one game and having him go crazy. So everything was working for the Bengals offense when they needed it to. Everything was working for their defense. This is a Bengals team that's back, dude. They're back.
Don't be surprised when the Bills side if the Bills go downhill. Don't be surprised if Stephon Diggs wants out of Buffalo. Do not be surprised because he wants to win, and Buffalo is up here, down here, up here, down here. They've been very, very inconsistent. We thought they were going to be in the AFC Championship type team, but so far it's not looking that way. Just the injuries on defense, I understand it hurts them, but the offense, they never had a really good run game for the past 5 years. The run game, they never been sold on the run game. It's always they're throwing in the ball and stuff. But now they're getting exposed because everybody is now knowing that they're going to pass the ball. Just kind of like what Pittsburgh did 3 years ago when Big Ben was trying to play towards the end of his career. They couldn't run the ball as well. Everybody knew that Pittsburgh was going to throw the ball. So it's kind of a similar situation, different quarterback, but I don't know about Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets end up being better than Buffalo, despite Zach Wilson playing just enough to expectations and, the defense being a little more effective. We'll see what they can do against the Chargers. But that's it for Lambo and Matt's World Sports. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Totem Pole Nation and Sideline Sports Network. Thanks for giving us a platform. Need a merch, go to TotemPoleNation.com. If you need any products, look, Michelob Ultra is the best beer in America. I have the tank top. I have the bucket hat. I don't know where I got this from. There was a point where I didn't buy it, but if you need any beer for tonight's game, Michelob Ultra is the way to go. Get you a 12-pack, a 24-pack, or get you a big bottle at all stores that sell it. All right? We'll catch you tomorrow for all of college football recaps because there is some big matchups going on that we have to dig deep and talk about. So, y'all have a great night. Y'all peace out. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.